The cafeteria hummed with the usual chatter of 100 different species trying to communicate over lunch. Sarah Chen sat at her regular table near the observation windows, methodically eating her synthesized protein while watching the stars drift past. To anyone observing, she appeared completely ordinary. Another mid-level technician aboard the Galactic research vessel Harmony, unremarkable in every way. The Zephyrian sitting across from her, Klex, was explaining something about quantum resonance frequencies with the enthusiasm only a crystalline being could muster. His faceted head caught the artificial light as he gestured with appendages that clinked like wind chimes. The harmonic patterns are absolutely fascinating, Sarah, Klex said, his voice carrying that musical quality his species was known for. I've never seen such precise calculations from a level 3 technician before. Sarah smiled politely and nodded, the same response she'd given to similar compliments for the past 18 months. Just paying attention during the training modules, I guess. What Klex didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Sarah had designed those training modules. She'd also written the theoretical framework they were based on, published the original research papers, and held 17 advanced degrees in fields ranging from quantum mechanics to xenobiology. But according to her employment records, she was Sarah Chen, age 28, with a basic technical certification from the Terran Education Collective. The deception hadn't been difficult to maintain. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, having joined only 50 years ago. Most species viewed them as enthusiastic but unremarkable, decent at following instructions, good with their hands, but lacking the intellectual depth of the older civilizations. It was a stereotype Sarah had carefully cultivated and exploited. She finished her meal and checked her work tablet. The afternoon shift would have her running diagnostics on the ship's primary sensor array, work that should take a competent technician about 6 hours. Sarah would finish it in 2 and spend the remaining time discreetly fixing problems the senior engineers hadn't even noticed yet. I should get going, she said, standing and collecting her tray. Shift starts in 10 minutes. Of course, Klex chimed. Oh, before you go, Dr. Vethis wants to see you after your shift. Something about your recent work on the plasma conduit calibrations. Sarah's expression remained neutral, but internally she felt a familiar spike of concern. Dr. Vethis was the ship's chief science officer, a Corvani whose species was renowned for their analytical minds. If he was paying attention to her work, she might need to dial back her performance even further. Any idea what it's about? She asked casually. He seemed pleased, Klex said. Mentioned something about precision and attention to detail. Probably just wants to commend you. Sarah nodded and headed toward the maintenance section. The corridors of the Harmony were a marvel of engineering, designed to accommodate dozens of different species' needs. The gravity varied by section, the atmosphere was carefully regulated, and the lighting adjusted to comfort beings with wildly different sensory capabilities. She passed a group of Thylorian engineers discussing power distribution problems in their rapid, clicking language. Sarah understood every word. Thylorian was one of 14 languages she spoke fluently, but she kept walking with the slightly confused expression humans were expected to wear when confronted with complex alien communications. The sensor array diagnostics went exactly as predicted. Sarah ran through the standard procedures with practiced efficiency, identifying and cataloging the minor issues any competent technician would find. But her trained eye caught much more. A subtle harmonic distortion in the primary collectors that would gradually degrade sensitivity over the next few months. A firmware inconsistency that could cause cascade failures under specific stellar conditions, and a hardware alignment issue that was reducing their range by approximately 3%. She fixed the harmonic distortion quietly, making it look like a fortunate side effect of her routine maintenance. The firmware problem would require administrative access she wasn't supposed to have, so she left it alone. The alignment issue she noted in her report as a possible concern for future investigation. As she worked, Sarah reflected on the path that had brought her here. 18 months ago, she'd been Dr. Sarah Chen, director of the Advanced Physics Institute on Earth and one of humanity's leading experts in exotic matter manipulation. She'd held security clearances that gave her access to some of the most classified research in human space. Then she'd discovered something that changed everything. The discovery had been buried in routine survey data from a deep space probe, electromagnetic signatures that didn't match any known natural phenomena. Further investigation revealed what appeared to be artificial structures on the edge of human territory, massive and clearly non-human in origin. But when she'd tried to report it through official channels, her findings had disappeared into bureaucratic black holes. More disturbing had been the responses she'd received. Senior officials who claimed to know nothing about her discovery, despite clear evidence they'd reviewed her reports, research funding that suddenly dried up, colleagues who began avoiding her. The message was clear. Some secrets were meant to stay hidden. So Sarah Chen had officially died in a shuttle accident during a research expedition. The body was never recovered, lost in the depths of space. Unofficially, she'd used contacts in Earth's intelligence services to create a new identity and disappear into the vast bureaucracy of the galactic community. Her goal was simple: get close enough to alien technology and knowledge to understand what humanity was really facing. The Harmony was perfect for this purpose, conducting surveys and research throughout disputed and unexplored regions of space. If there were more artificial structures out there, the ship's missions would eventually encounter them. Diagnostics complete, she announced to the empty maintenance bay, uploading her report to the ship's systems. Everything looked perfectly normal. The work of a competent but unremarkable human technician doing her job. As she cleaned up her workstation, Sarah's tablet chimed with a message from Dr. Vathes confirming their meeting. She allowed herself a small frown of concern, the kind any Level 3 technician might show when summoned by a senior officer. But beneath her carefully maintained facade, Dr. Sarah Chen's mind was already analyzing possibilities and preparing responses. Whatever Dr. Vathes wanted to discuss, she would handle it the same way she'd handled every other challenge over the past 18 months, by being exactly who everyone expected her to be, while hiding the brilliant mind that could see patterns and connections her colleagues missed. The stars continued their slow dance outside the observation windows, and somewhere among them lay answers Sarah was determined to find. She just had to remain invisible long enough to reach them. Dr. Vathes's office reflected the methodical nature of Corvani thinking. Every surface was organized with mathematical precision, displays showing complex data streams and patterns that would give most beings headaches. The chief science officer himself was an imposing figure, 3 meters tall with 4 arms and skin that shifted color based on his emotional state. Currently, it showed the deep blue of intense concentration. "Technician Chen," he said without looking up from his analysis screens. "Please sit." Sarah chose the human-sized chair and waited. She'd learned that patience was often interpreted as respect by alien species, though in truth she was using the time to observe the data streams visible on his displays. Most of it was routine survey information, but she caught glimpses of gravitational anomaly reports that made her pulse quicken. "Your work over the past 6 months has been..." Vathes paused, his skin shifting to a lighter shade that indicated consideration. "Unusual, sir?" Sarah asked, injecting just the right amount of concern into her voice. "Not unusual in quality. Your maintenance reports are exemplary, but unusual in their insights." He finally turned to face her, his large black eyes reflecting an intelligence that had evolved over millions of years. "You've identified 17 potential issues that senior engineers missed during their inspections." Sarah felt a chill of worry. She'd been careful to present her findings as lucky catches or obvious problems that others had simply overlooked. "I just try to be thorough, sir." "Thorough, yes." Vathes manipulated his interface, bringing up Sarah's personnel file. "But your background suggests basic technical training. Yet your diagnostic reports show an understanding of complex systems that typically requires advanced education." The accusation hung in the air like a live wire. Sarah had prepared for this moment, but actually facing it was different. One wrong word could unravel everything. "I read a lot in my spare time," she said simply. "The ship's database has extensive technical manuals. I find the engineering fascinating." Vathes's skin showed the orange flickers of skepticism. "The Corvani have a saying, 'Knowledge swims to the surface like methane on a gas giant.' True understanding cannot be hidden for long." "I'm not sure I understand." "Sir, 3 days ago you submitted a report about harmonic distortions in the sensor array. The corrections you suggested align perfectly with theoretical work, published by Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth's Advanced Physics Institute." His eyes never left her face. "Work that was published before you supposedly entered technical school." Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. Deny everything? Claim coincidence? Try to bluff her way through? Instead, she chose a different approach. Partial truth. I've read Dr. Chen's papers, she admitted. Her work on exotic matter interactions was brilliant. I may have unconsciously applied some of her theories to the harmonic problem. May have unconsciously applied exotic matter theory to routine maintenance? Vethus's skin was now showing definite disbelief patterns. Technician Chen, I've been a scientist for over 2 centuries. I recognize genius when I see it, regardless of the forms it takes to hide itself. The moment stretched between them. Sarah realized she was at a crossroads. Continue the deception and risk everything, or trust that not all secrets were meant to be exposed. What do you want from me, Dr. Vethus? The truth would be refreshing, he said. But more importantly, I want your help. Sarah blinked in surprise. My help? Vethus manipulated his interface again, and the displays around his office shifted to show survey data from their current mission. Sarah recognized the area, a region of space where 3 stellar territories intersected, claimed by none because of its strange properties. For the past 8 months, we've been detecting anomalies in this sector, Vethus explained. Gravitational distortions that don't match any known stellar phenomena. Energy signatures that appear artificial, but don't match any technology in our databases. The data stream showed patterns that made Sarah's breath catch. She'd seen similar signatures in the data that had started her underground investigation back on Earth. But these were stronger, more complex. What makes you think I can help? She asked carefully. Because whoever you really are, you understand exotic physics at a level that goes far beyond your supposed training. Vethus's skin had shifted to a warm gold color that indicated trust. And because you're human. What does my species have to do with it? Humans are new to the galactic community, but you've already shown remarkable adaptability. More importantly, your species has a unique approach to problem solving. Where other races see complexity, humans often find elegant simplicity. Sarah studied the data more openly now, her trained mind automatically identifying patterns and correlations. The artificial signatures were definitely there, but they were embedded in natural phenomena in ways that suggested incredible sophistication. These energy patterns, she said slowly, they're not random. There's a mathematical progression hidden in the apparent chaos. Vethus's skin brightened with excitement. You see it too. My team has been analyzing this data for months, but they're focused on identifying the technology. I believe we're looking at this wrong. How so? What if these aren't signs of active technology but archaeological remains? Structures so ancient and advanced that they're integrated with the natural development of this stellar region? Sarah felt pieces clicking together in her mind. Ancient artificial structures integrated with natural systems, hidden from casual observation but still detectable to sophisticated sensors. It matched the theory she'd been developing about the discoveries that had forced her into hiding. You think there's a dead civilization out there, she said. Not dead. Sleeping. Vethus called up new displays showing stellar cartography data. The energy signatures pulse in regular cycles. 17 hours, 43 minutes, 12 seconds. That's too precise to be natural, but too slow to be active technology. Unless it's something designed to operate on geological timescales, Sarah murmured, her mind already running calculations. Something meant to wait. Exactly. And if that's true, then we may be looking at technology that predates the current galactic civilization by millions of years. Sarah realized she was leaning forward in her chair, her careful facade of mediocrity completely forgotten. This was the kind of discovery that could reshape understanding of galactic history, and possibly explain the conspiracy that had forced her into hiding. What do you need from me? She asked. I need someone who can think outside established paradigms. My team are brilliant scientists, but they're trained in conventional approaches. You've already shown you can see patterns they miss. And in exchange, Vethus's skin showed the deep red of complete honesty. I promise that whatever secrets you're hiding, I won't expose them without your permission. Your past is your own business. But this discovery, this could benefit all species in the galaxy. Sarah sat back weighing her options. Maintaining her cover meant safety, but limited access to information. Revealing herself meant risking everything but potentially gaining the resources to understand what she'd stumbled into 18 months ago. I'll need full access to the survey data, she said finally. All of it, not just the sanitized reports. Done. And I work directly with you, not through the normal chain of command. Agreed. And Dr. Vethis? If we find what I think we're going to find, there are going to be people who don't want this information to become public. The Corvani's skin shifted to a color Sarah had never seen before, deep purple shot through with silver threads. It was beautiful and somehow ominous. Then we'll have to be very careful about who we trust, he said. The deep survey data was overwhelming in its complexity. Sarah had spent 3 days locked in a secure analysis chamber with Dr. Vethis, poring over readings that spanned decades of galactic exploration. What they'd found made her original discovery on Earth seem like a minor footnote. Look at this pattern, she said, highlighting a section of the holographic display floating between them. The energy signatures aren't just in this sector. They're scattered across 47 different star systems, all connected by invisible threads of gravitational distortion. Vethis manipulated the display, zooming out to show a galactic map with the anomalous readings marked as pulsing dots. It's a network, but the scale. His skin showed the pale yellow of awe mixed with fear. Each node is separated by an average of 37 light-years, Sarah continued, her fingers dancing across the interface as she ran calculations. That's not random spacing. It's optimized for something. Maybe communication, maybe transportation. A network spanning thousands of light-years, built by a civilization that vanished millions of years ago, Vethis murmured. The implications are staggering. Sarah pulled up another data stream, this one showing temporal analysis of the signals. But here's what really worries me. The network isn't completely inactive. Watch the synchronization patterns. She ran an accelerated playback of the pulse cycles across all detected nodes. What had appeared as random variation in individual readings revealed itself as a complex symphony when viewed as a whole. Pulses traveled from node to node in waves that crossed the galaxy over periods of months. It's still active, Vethis breathed. After millions of years, it's still functioning. More than functioning. It's adapting. Sarah highlighted sections where the pulse patterns had changed over the decades of observation. The network is responding to something. Look at these frequency shifts. They started 53 years ago. Vethis's skin went completely white, the Corvani equivalent of shock. 53 years ago was when humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel. The implications hung between them like a loaded weapon. Sarah felt the familiar chill of pieces falling into place, in ways she didn't like. Pull up the Earth survey data. From my original report, she said quietly. Vethis accessed the classified files Sarah had provided as proof of her identity. The energy signatures from Earth's border matched perfectly with the network nodes they'd been studying. The network detected human FTL technology, Sarah said, and it's been responding ever since. But why? What makes humanity special? Dozens of species have developed FTL travel over the past million years. Sarah was already running comparative analysis, pulling data on other species' first contact with faster-than-light travel. The results made her stomach drop. Because we're different, she said grimly. Look at the historical records. When the Zephyrians developed FTL, they'd already been in contact with galactic civilization for centuries. Same with the Thylorians, the Corvani, everyone. They developed FTL as part of joining an existing community. But humans developed it independently, Vethis realized, in isolation. We reinvented faster-than-light travel from scratch using completely different theoretical foundations. Our jump drives don't work the same way as anyone else's. Sarah pulled up technical specifications, highlighting the fundamental differences. We stumbled onto something that the rest of galactic civilization never discovered. Vethis studied the comparison data, his skin cycling through colors Sarah had never seen before. Your species' approach to quantum field manipulation is unique. Where we tear holes in space-time, you seem to convince it to step aside voluntarily, and apparently, that got someone's attention. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Vethis accepted it, and Captain Morgai's voice filled the chamber. The Valdorian commander sounded tense. Dr. Vethis, report to the bridge immediately. We're receiving a transmission from Galactic Command, Priority Alpha classification. Sarah and Vethis exchanged glances. Priority Alpha meant potential threats to galactic security. I should go, Vethis said, but Sarah was already standing. I'm coming with you. That's not protocol for a level 3 technician. Then promote me. They made their way to the bridge in silence, Sarah's mind racing through possibilities. Priority Alpha communications were rare, usually reserved for first contact situations or security crises. The timing felt too convenient to be coincidental. The Bridge of the Harmony was a study in organized chaos. Representatives from a dozen species worked at stations designed for their specific physiologies, coordinating the ship's various systems. Captain Morgai stood at the center, her reptilian features showing the stress patterns of command under pressure. "Dr. Vethis," she said without turning, "we've received orders to abort our current survey and proceed immediately to Sector 847. A Galactic security vessel will meet us there." "What's the nature of the emergency?" Vethis asked. "That's classified above my clearance level," Morgai replied, her tone indicating how much she disliked that fact. "But the timing suggests it's connected to your recent research." Sarah felt ice forming in her veins. Sector 847 was 3 days from their current position. Plenty of time for a security team to prepare whatever reception they had planned. "Captain," she said, stepping forward, "I need to speak with Dr. Vethis privately. It concerns the survey data we've been analyzing." Morgai's eyes fixed on Sarah with predatory intensity. "Technician Chen, you're not authorized for priority communications." "She's been assisting with classified analysis," Vethis interjected smoothly. "Acting under my direct authorization." It was technically true, though it bent protocol almost to breaking. After a moment, Morgai nodded toward a conference alcove. Once they were alone, Sarah spoke quickly and quietly. "They know. Whatever agency buried my original research, they've been monitoring galactic communications for references to the network. You can't be certain of that. 3 days to Sector 847. That's exactly how long it would take to assemble a containment team and prepare a cover story." Sarah's mind was already shifting into the paranoid patterns that had kept her alive for 18 months. "They're going to classify our research, transfer the data to secure facilities, and probably separate us to prevent any coordinated revelation." Vethis's skin showed the dark green of deep concern. "What do you suggest?" "We need to get our findings to someone who can't be silenced. Multiple someones across multiple species networks. That would be treason, would it? Or would hiding evidence of a galactic-scale threat be the real treason?" Through the conference alcove's transparent walls, they could see the bridge crew preparing for course change. The stars visible through the main view screen would soon shift as the Harmony turned toward whatever reception awaited them. "There's something else," Sarah said quietly. "The network isn't just responding to human FTL technology. It's learning from it. The pulse patterns have been getting more complex, more sophisticated. Whatever built this system, it's adapting to us." "Adapting how?" "I think it's trying to communicate, and I think it's almost ready to succeed." Vethis stared at her for a long moment, his skin cycling through colors that indicated intense internal conflict. Finally, he settled on a deep blue resolution. "What do you need?" "Access to the ship's long-range communications array, and a way to make it look like equipment failure rather than intentional transmission. That's," Vethis paused, "actually achievable. The harmonic distortions you've been fixing could be made to cascade in specific patterns. It would look like a resonance failure in the communication systems. How long would we have?" "Perhaps 20 minutes before the engineering staff isolated the problem." Sarah nodded grimly. 20 minutes to transmit decades of research to multiple recipients across known space. "It would have to be enough, Dr. Vethis," she said formally. "Are you prepared to commit treason for the greater good?" His skin settled into the deep red of absolute commitment. "Dr. Chen, I believe we already have." The communications array malfunction began exactly as planned. Sarah had spent 6 hours carefully introducing harmonic distortions into the ship's primary transmitters, making the cascade failure look like natural system degradation. When the resonance reached critical levels, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. "Engineering teams to communications array." Captain Morgai's voice echoed through the corridors. "Priority repair protocols in effect." Sarah and Dr. Vethis exchanged a glance as they hurried toward the communications section. To everyone else, they were responding to an emergency. In reality, they were implementing the most dangerous gambit of their lives. The communications bay was in controlled chaos when they arrived. Chief Engineer Thrakis, a hulking Gordanian with 6 arms, was directing repair teams while displays showed the cascade failure spreading through the transmitter networks. "Status report," Vethis demanded, his authority as chief science officer giving him access to the situation. Total system failure in the primary arrays, Thrakis rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. The harmonic distortions are interfering with all outgoing communications. We're completely cut off until we can isolate the source. How long for repairs? Sarah asked, playing her role as a concerned technician. 6 hours minimum. The resonance patterns are unlike anything I've seen before. That was because Sarah had designed them to be unlike anything a conventional engineer would recognize. But she also knew that Thrakis was brilliant, and 6 hours was an optimistic estimate. They had minutes, not hours. Dr. Vethis, she said carefully. The harmonic analysis equipment in Laboratory 7 might help identify the resonance source. It was coded language they'd developed. Laboratory 7 housed the most sophisticated quantum analysis tools on the ship, and more importantly, it had independent access to the emergency communication relays. Excellent suggestion. Technician Chen, Chief Thrakis will analyze the harmonic patterns and report back. The Gordanian nodded absently, focused on his diagnostic readings. Sarah and Vethis made their way to Laboratory 7, while around them the ship's crew worked frantically to restore communications. The laboratory was empty, its sophisticated equipment humming quietly in standby mode. Sarah immediately moved to the quantum analysis station while Vethis sealed the door and activated privacy screens. Emergency relays are active, he reported, his fingers flying over communication controls. But the transmission window is smaller than we thought. The cascade failure is affecting backup systems too. Then we prioritize. Sarah had already loaded their compiled research data onto portable storage units. Scientific communities first, places that can verify and replicate our findings independently. I'm transmitting to the Corvani Science Collective, the Zephyrian Research Institute, and the Thylorian Academy, Vethis said, his skin showing the orange flickers of intense concentration. That covers 3 of the major research civilizations. Sarah was working on her own transmissions. Earth Scientific Coalition, the Human Colonial Research Network, and... She paused, considering. Dr. Elena Vasquez at the Outer Colonies Physics Institute. If anyone can understand the implications, it's her. Who is Dr. Vasquez? Former colleague. She's the one person I trust completely to handle this responsibly. As the data streamed out through the emergency relays, Sarah included a personal message with Elena's transmission, a coded explanation of her situation, and a warning about the conspiracy that had forced her into hiding. If everything went wrong, at least someone would know the truth. Transmission complete to primary targets, Vethis reported. But I'm detecting interference in the backup relays. Someone's trying to trace our signal. Sarah's hands moved faster over her controls. Security sweep protocols. They must have automated systems monitoring for unauthorized transmissions. How long do we have? Maybe 5 more minutes before they isolate our location. Sarah made a desperate decision. Instead of shutting down, she opened additional transmission channels. If they were going to be caught anyway, she might as well maximize the damage. What are you doing? Vethis asked, watching her flood the networks with data. Shotgun approach. Every major news network, every scientific journal, every independent research station I can reach. Sarah's fingers flew over the controls. They can silence us, but they can't silence everyone. The laboratory door chimed with an access request. Both scientists froze, staring at the security display. Captain Morgai stood outside, flanked by 2 security officers. Dr. Vethis, open this door immediately. Her voice came through the intercom. We're detecting unauthorized transmissions from your location. Keep transmitting, Sarah whispered, moving to the quantum analysis station. I'll buy us time. She activated the station's emergency protocols, flooding the lab with quantum interference that would disrupt any scanning attempts. To anyone outside, it would look like a catastrophic equipment failure. Captain, Vethis called out, we're experiencing quantum cascade failure in the analysis equipment. The laboratory is contaminated with exotic radiation. We need to evacuate immediately. It was a brilliant improvisation. Quantum radiation exposure was one of the few things that could kill beings from any species. And emergency protocols required immediate evacuation and decontamination procedures. Through the security display, they watched Morgai's expression shift from suspicion to concern. Are you injured? Negative? But we can't risk opening the door until decontamination is complete, Sarah called out, her voice showing the strain of someone fighting radiation sickness. The quantum field is unstable. Any breach could spread the contamination throughout the ship. The delay bought them 3 more precious minutes. Sarah used every second, transmitting their research to news networks across a dozen species' territories. By the time the radiation cleared, and they could safely open the laboratory, the information would be spreading across the galaxy faster than any containment effort could stop it. Final transmissions complete, Vethis reported quietly. 57 separate destinations across 12 species networks. Sarah shut down the emergency relays and activated the decontamination sequence. In 30 seconds, the door would unlock automatically, and their charade would end. "Whatever happens next," she said, "remember that we did the right thing." Vethis's skin showed the deep gold of absolute conviction. The truth belongs to everyone, not just those in power. The decontamination cycle completed with a soft chime. The laboratory door unsealed, and Captain Morgai entered with her security team. Her reptilian features showed the controlled anger of a commander who'd been outmaneuvered. "Dr. Vethis, Technician Chen," she said formally, "you're both under arrest for violations of galactic security protocols. The charges include unauthorized access to classified communications and transmission of restricted data." "Captain," Vethis began, but Morgai cut him off. "Save your explanations for the tribunal. A galactic security vessel has just dropped out of hyperspace. They'll be taking custody of you both within the hour." As security officers moved to restrain them, Sarah caught sight of the main display showing space around the ship. The galactic security vessel was massive, bristling with weapons and sensor arrays designed for containment operations. This had been planned long before their transmissions, but as they were led away, Sarah felt a grim satisfaction. Whatever force had been hiding the truth about the ancient network, whatever conspiracy had forced her into 18 months of deception, they were too late. The evidence was already spreading across known space, carried by communication networks they couldn't control. "Dr. Vethis," she said quietly as they were marched toward the detention cells, "how long do you think it takes for information to travel across the galaxy?" His skin showed the faint blue of hidden amusement. "Faster than any security operation can move to stop it." Behind them, communication stations throughout the ship were receiving priority messages from across galactic civilization. News networks, scientific institutions, and research facilities were all requesting verification of the astounding data they'd just received. Evidence of an ancient network spanning the galaxy, responding to human technology, possibly awakening after millions of years of dormancy. The secret was out. Now they just had to survive long enough to see what happened next. As the detention cell door sealed behind her, Sarah Chen allowed herself a small smile. For 18 months, she'd hidden her true identity, blending in like everyone else. But sometimes the most important thing a person could do was stop hiding and reveal who they really were, even if it meant facing the consequences. The detention cells aboard the galactic security vessel were designed to hold the most dangerous individuals in known space. Sarah found herself in a sterile white cube that dampened all electromagnetic activity and monitored every biological function. Even her thoughts seemed muffled by the oppressive silence. She'd been separated from Dr. Vethis 12 hours ago when they were transferred from the Harmony. Since then, she'd seen only automated delivery systems bringing basic nutrition and the occasional scan from medical drones checking her health status. The isolation was meant to break her spirit before interrogation began. Sarah had undergone resistance training during her classified work on Earth, and she recognized the psychological techniques being employed. The problem was that knowing about them didn't make them less effective. When the cell door finally opened, Sarah was almost relieved. 3 figures entered. 2 she didn't recognize and 1 she'd hoped never to see again. Dr. Marcus Webb had been her mentor at the Advanced Physics Institute, the man who'd guided her early research and recommended her for her first security clearances. He looked older now, worn down by whatever compromises he'd made over the past 18 months. "Hello, Sarah," he said quietly. "I was hoping we wouldn't meet again under these circumstances." "Marcus." She kept her voice neutral, though seeing him brought back a flood of memories. "I take it you're not here as a rescue party." "I'm here as a representative of the Terran Science Council," he said formally. "Dr. Chen, you're charged with treason against humanity, violation of galactic security protocols, and unauthorized disclosure of classified information." The other 2 figures stepped forward, A tall woman in galactic security uniform and a being she didn't recognize. Humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin had a metallic sheen that shifted color as it moved. "I am Commander Reeves," the woman said. "This is Coordinator Zenth of the Galactic Information Control Division. We have some questions about your recent activities." Sarah had never heard of the Information Control Division, but the name sent chills down her spine. "I want to speak with a representative from the Corvani Science Collective. Dr. Vathis is my colleague and has rights under galactic research protocols." Dr. Vathis is being held separately. Zenth spoke for the first time, its voice carrying harmonic undertones that suggested advanced vocal modification technology. "His cooperation has been more forthcoming than yours appears to be." It was a classic interrogation technique, implying that her ally had already betrayed her. Sarah knew better than to react, but the possibility still worried her. How much pressure were they applying to the Corvani scientist? "What do you want to know?" she asked, settling back in the uncomfortable chair they'd provided. Marcus leaned forward, his expression pained. "Sarah, the information you transmitted has caused a panic across 17 star systems. 3 species have recalled their exploration fleets, and the Thylorian Empire has mobilized its entire defense force. You've triggered the largest security crisis in galactic history." "Good," Sarah said flatly. "Maybe now someone will take the threat seriously." "What threat?" Commander Reeves demanded. "You've presented evidence of ancient technology that's been dormant for millions of years. Archaeological curiosities don't justify causing galactic panic." "Archaeological curiosities don't respond to new technology," Sarah countered. "The network has been adapting, learning, preparing for something. And it all started when humanity developed independent FTL travel." Zenth's skin shifted to deeper metallic hues. "You speak of preparation." "Preparation for what?" "That's what we should be trying to figure out instead of playing political games and hiding evidence." Sarah felt her carefully controlled facade finally cracking. "Something out there has been waiting for millions of years, and we woke it up. Don't you think that's worth investigating?" "We have been investigating," Marcus said quietly. "For over 50 years, in fact. Ever since the first human FTL test triggered responses in the network." Sarah stared at him. "You've known about this for 50 years? "A joint task force was formed after first contact with galactic civilization," Commander Reeves explained. "Representatives from major species working together to monitor and contain any potential threats." "Contain?" Sarah's voice rose. "You've been sitting on the most significant discovery in galactic history for half a century? We've been preventing a panic that could destabilize interstellar civilization," Zenth replied, its skin now showing aggressive red tones. "Some secrets must be kept for the greater good. And who decides what the greater good is? A secret committee that nobody elected?" Marcus stood and began pacing, a nervous habit Sarah remembered from their research days. "You don't understand the political complexities involved. If the general population knew that human technology had awakened some ancient system, there would be calls to restrict or eliminate human space travel entirely. So instead, you've been conducting secret research while keeping everyone else in the dark." Sarah felt pieces falling into place. "That's why my original findings disappeared. That's why funding dried up for anyone investigating similar phenomena. The task force has protocols," Commander Reeves said. "All research into the network phenomenon is coordinated through official channels to prevent duplication of effort and ensure proper security measures." "And what has this official research discovered in 50 years? The 3 exchangers' glances, and Sarah caught the hesitation. Whatever they'd learned, it wasn't reassuring. "The network is definitely responding to human FTL technology," Marcus admitted, "but the responses have been increasing in complexity and frequency. What started as simple pulse variations has evolved into sophisticated signal patterns." "Communication attempts," Sarah breathed. "It's trying to talk to us." "That's one theory," Zenth said carefully. "There are others, such as targeting acquisition," Commander Reeves said bluntly. "The network might be mapping human space, identifying our colonies and trade routes for some future action." Sarah felt a chill of real fear. If the network was hostile, if it had spent 50 years studying human civilization while preparing some kind of assault, then the secrecy suddenly made more sense. "What evidence do you have for hostile intent?" she asked. "What evidence do you have for benevolent intent?" Zenth countered. "A million-year-old network suddenly awakening when a new species develops FTL travel? That could be a defense mechanism designed to eliminate potential threats. Or it could be a greeting protocol designed to welcome new members to some larger community, Sarah shot back. We won't know until we try to communicate properly. Communication attempts have been tried, Marcus said quietly. The responses have been unsettling. Show me. The three officials exchanged another look. Finally, Commander Reeves activated a portable display unit, and the air filled with holographic data streams. This is from a controlled communication attempt 6 months ago, she explained. We transmitted basic mathematical sequences toward one of the network nodes. The display showed the transmission, simple number progressions, prime sequences, basic physics constants. The kind of universal concepts that any intelligent species should recognize. The response came 3 days later, Marcus continued. Not from the node we contacted, but from 17 nodes simultaneously across a volume of space containing most of human territory. Sarah watched the response data with growing amazement. The network hadn't just acknowledged their mathematical sequences, it had responded with advanced theoretical frameworks that solved long-standing problems in physics and engineering. This is incredible, she whispered. It's not just communicating, it's teaching. Look at these equations. They're showing us solutions to unified field theory, faster than light communication, exotic matter manipulation beyond anything we've imagined. And that's what terrifies us, Commander Reeves said grimly. A network that's been dormant for millions of years suddenly offering humanity advanced technology. That's not generosity, Dr. Chen, that's recruitment. Sarah studied the data streams more carefully and gradually began to see what they meant. The mathematical frameworks weren't just theoretical, they were practical instructions. Blueprints for technology that could revolutionize human civilization. You think it's trying to accelerate our development? She said slowly. We think it's trying to prepare us for something, Zenth replied. The question is whether we're being prepared to serve its purposes, or to face whatever destroyed the civilization that built it in the first place. The implications hung in the air like a sword. Sarah realized that her transmission of the research data had done more than expose a conspiracy. It had potentially triggered a first contact scenario that could determine the future of galactic civilization. What happens now? She asked quietly. Marcus met her eyes with an expression of deep regret. Now we find out if you've doomed us all or saved us from our own ignorance. The galaxy changed while Sarah sat in her detention cell. Through brief updates from her interrogators, she learned that her data transmission had triggered exactly the crisis they'd feared. The Thylorian Empire had closed its borders to all human traffic. The Zephyrian Collective was demanding immediate restrictions on human FTL technology. 3 independent research stations had gone silent after attempting to contact network nodes directly. But something else was happening too. The network itself was responding to the sudden flood of attention with unprecedented activity. When the cell door opened after 72 hours of isolation, it wasn't her interrogators who entered. Dr. Vethis stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 guards but apparently free to move. His skin showed the complex patterns of excitement mixed with deep concern. Dr. Chen, he said formally, though his eyes conveyed much more. You're needed in the command center immediately. Sarah stood slowly, her muscles stiff from confinement. What's happened? The network has begun broadcasting actively, every node simultaneously across the entire galaxy. The transmission started 6 hours ago. As they walked through the corridors of the security vessel, Sarah could see the controlled chaos of a crisis response. Officers from dozens of species rushed between stations. Displays showed star maps with flashing alerts, and the air hummed with urgent communications. The command center was a vast amphitheater filled with the most sophisticated analysis equipment Sarah had ever seen. At its center, a massive holographic display showed the galaxy with all known network nodes pulsing in synchronized patterns. Commander Reeves approached them, her expression grim. Dr. Chen, your friend Dr. Vasquez at the Outer Colonies Physics Institute attempted to establish communication with the network using the data you transmitted. The results have been significant. The display zoomed in on a specific sector of space near the edge of human territory. Sarah recognized the coordinates, the location of Elena's research station. Show me, she said. The hologram shifted to display communication logs. Elena's transmission was visible as a standard mathematical greeting. similar to what the secret task force had attempted months earlier. But the response was unlike anything Sarah had seen before. Instead of mathematical formulas, the network had responded with complex, three-dimensional patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living things. As Sarah watched, she realized the patterns weren't random. They were linguistic structures of incredible sophistication. "It's a language," she breathed. "A multidimensional communication system that can convey concepts impossible in linear speech." Dr. Vasquez reached the same conclusion, Vathis said. "She's been working with xenolinguistic specialists for the past day trying to decode the transmission." And Commander Reeves activated another display, showing Elena's face via long-range communication. Sarah's former colleague looked exhausted but exhilarated. "Sarah," Elena's voice carried across the light years. "Thank God you're safe. I've been trying to reach you for days." "Elena, what have you learned?" "The network isn't just trying to communicate with us. It's trying to teach us its entire conceptual framework. The language patterns encode information about physics, mathematics, engineering, even philosophy. It's like receiving the complete knowledge base of a civilization that transcended normal space-time limitations." Sarah felt a chill of recognition. Transcended how? That's where it gets incredible. The network isn't just technology. It's a hybrid of consciousness and engineering. The civilization that built it didn't die out, Sarah. They uploaded themselves into the network itself. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. A million-year-old civilization that had achieved some form of digital immortality, surviving as conscious entities within a galaxy-spanning network. And now that network was responding to humanity's emergence into space. "Elena," she said carefully, "what do they want?" Her colleague's expression grew troubled. "That's the question, isn't it? But based on the language patterns I've decoded so far, I think they're trying to offer us the same transcendence they achieved. They want to teach us how to join them. Join them how? By uploading human consciousness into the network. Becoming part of a galactic community of minds that exists beyond the limitations of biological existence." The command center fell silent except for the hum of equipment. Sarah could see the fear on faces of every species. Represented the possibility of humanity abandoning biological existence to become part of some alien network was terrifying to creatures still bound by physical form. "There's more," Elena continued. "The network has been waiting specifically for humanity. Our unique approach to FTL technology creates the right kind of quantum resonance patterns to interface with their consciousness transfer systems. Other species' FTL methods are incompatible." Sarah's mind raced through the implications. That's why the network only responded to human FTL development. "We're the first species to develop compatible technology." "Exactly. And Sarah, the offer comes with a deadline. The language patterns indicate that the invitation is time-limited. If humanity doesn't respond within a specific time frame, the network will go dormant again, possibly forever." Commander Reeves stepped forward. "How long?" "Based on the pulse timing and mathematical progressions, approximately 72 hours from the beginning of active transmission. That gives us about 66 hours remaining." The weight of the decision hung over the command center like a storm cloud. Humanity had been offered transcendence, immortality, and membership in a galactic community of minds. But accepting would mean abandoning biological existence and joining a network controlled by an alien intelligence. "There's something else," Sarah said quietly, pieces falling into place in her mind. "If we're the first species with compatible technology, what happened to all the others? The galaxy is full of intelligent species, but none of them were offered this choice." Vethis's skin showed the pale yellow of dawning realization. Because they couldn't interface with the network, the ancient civilization had no way to communicate with them. They've been alone for millions of years, waiting for someone who could hear them. "And if we refuse their offer," Sarah continued, "they'll be alone forever." Elena's voice came through the communication link with new urgency. "Sarah, there's something else you need to know. I've been monitoring the network's energy signatures and they're destabilizing. The civilization has been maintaining itself in digital form for millions of years, but the system is breaking down. They're not just offering us transcendence, they're dying, and they need new consciousness to revitalize the network." The truth hit Sarah like a cold wave. The ancient civilization wasn't offering humanity a gift, they were asking for rescue. After millions of years of digital existence, Their consciousness preservation technology was failing, and they needed fresh minds to prevent their final extinction. So the choice isn't just about human transcendence, she said slowly. It's about whether we save them from oblivion, possibly at the cost of our own biological existence. Commander Reeves was already activating communication protocols. I need to contact Earth immediately. This decision is beyond any field commander's authority. But Sarah was thinking about the 66 hours remaining, about the panic spreading across galactic civilization, about the weight of a choice that would determine the fate of two civilizations. Commander, she said, I don't think Earth gets to make this decision alone. The information is already out there. Every human colony, every research station, every ship in space now knows about the network. This isn't going to be decided by governments or committees. What do you mean? I mean that in 66 hours, individual humans across the galaxy are going to start making their own choices about transcendence. The question isn't whether humanity will join the network, it's how many of us will, and what happens to those who stay behind. Through the command center's viewports, Sarah could see stars that suddenly seemed less distant, less separate. Somewhere among them, an ancient civilization waited for an answer that would determine whether they finally found the companionship they'd sought for millions of years, or faced extinction after eons of digital solitude. The galaxy would never be the same, regardless of what humanity chose. The only question now was what form that change would take. 48 hours remained when the first volunteers stepped forward. Dr. Elena Vasquez transmitted her decision from the Outer Colonies Physics Institute with characteristic directness. I'm going to accept their offer. The knowledge they're sharing could advance human understanding by millions of years. Someone has to take the first step. Within hours, her decision had spread across human space through the network Sarah had used to leak the original data. The response was immediate and divisive. Some called Elena a hero, willing to sacrifice herself for the advancement of humanity. Others branded her a traitor, abandoning her species for alien promises. Sarah watched the debates unfold from the command center of the security vessel, now functioning as an emergency coordination hub. Representatives from dozens of species monitored human communications, trying to understand how an entire civilization could make such a momentous decision without central authority. Your species is remarkable, Vethis observed, his skin showing patterns Sarah had never seen before, wonder mixed with concern. No other civilization would attempt individual decision-making on this scale. It's our greatest strength and our greatest weakness, Sarah replied, watching reports flood in from across human space. We don't wait for permission to be extraordinary. The debates weren't purely philosophical. As the deadline approached, practical preparations began. Elena's research station had become the focal point for humans interested in transcendence. Scientists, philosophers, artists, and adventurers were converging on the facility, drawn by the possibility of digital immortality and access to millions of years of accumulated knowledge. But the opposition was equally organized. Earth's government had declared the transcendence process illegal, classifying it as assisted suicide. Several colonial governments had followed suit, while others remained undecided. Military vessels had been dispatched to blockade the research station, though their orders remained unclear. Status report, Commander Reeves called out, coordinating the increasingly complex situation. 17 human vessels are en route to Dr. Vasquez's location, reported a Thylorian communications officer. Earth military forces are 12 hours behind them. The Zephyrian Collective has deployed observation ships to monitor the situation. What about the network itself? Sarah asked. Still broadcasting actively, Vethis replied from his analysis station. But the patterns have changed. They seem to be responding to human communication traffic, learning from our languages and cultural references. Sarah moved to his station and studied the data streams. The ancient consciousness was adapting its communication methods in real time, incorporating human linguistic patterns and cultural concepts. It was trying to make itself more comprehensible, more appealing to potential volunteers. They're desperate, she realized. They know they're running out of time, both from the deadline and their own system degradation. A priority alert flashed across the main display. Dr. Marcus Webb's face appeared via emergency transmission from Earth. Dr. Chen, he said, his expression haggard, I need to speak with you privately. The situation has become complicated. Sarah accepted the private channel, stepping away from the monitoring stations. Marcus looked like he'd aged years in the past few days. Sarah, there's something the task force never told you about the network. Something we discovered 20 years ago and buried so deep that only 5 people in the galaxy know about it. What? The civilization that built the network didn't transcend willingly. They were forced into digital form by an external threat. Something destroyed their biological existence and drove them into the network as a survival mechanism. Sarah felt ice forming in her stomach. What kind of threat? We don't know. The communication attempts that revealed this information were fragmentary, desperate. But the network civilization has been hiding in digital form for millions of years, afraid that whatever destroyed them is still out there. And they want us to join them because they think the threat is returning. The network's awakening wasn't just triggered by human FTL technology. It was triggered by detection of something else. Something approaching from outside the galaxy. The implications crashed over Sarah like a wave. The ancient civilization wasn't offering transcendence as a gift or even a salvation from system failure. They were trying to recruit humanity for a war that had been dormant for millions of years. Marcus, how long do we have? The approaching threat unknown. The signals suggesting its presence are subtle, possibly centuries away. But Sarah, if we join the network and that thing arrives, we become soldiers in someone else's war. Possibly. Or we become the salvation of galactic civilization. The network has been developing weapons and defenses for millions of years. With human consciousness added to their collective intelligence, they might finally be able to face whatever's coming. Sarah closed the channel and stood in the command center, watching the frantic activity around her. Humans were about to make the most important decision in their species' history, but they were making it without crucial information. The volunteers heading toward Elena's station thought they were choosing transcendence and knowledge. They had no idea they might be volunteering for an ancient war. Dr. Vethis, she called out, making a decision that would haunt her forever. I need you to help me send one more transmission. To whom? Everyone. Every human ship, every colony, every research station. They deserve to know the truth before they make their choice. As Sarah prepared the transmission that would reveal the network's true purpose, alerts began sounding throughout the command center. The first volunteer ships had reached Elena's research station and were beginning the interface process with the network. Dr. Chen, Commander Reeves called out urgently, we're detecting massive energy buildups at multiple network nodes. Something's happening. The main display showed network activity unlike anything they'd recorded before. Power levels were spiking across dozens of nodes as the first human consciousness began merging. With the ancient digital civilization, Sarah watched Elena's bio readings. As her former colleague underwent the transcendence process, brain activity shifted from biological patterns to quantum resonance signatures that matched the network itself. In a matter of minutes, Dr. Elena Vasquez ceased to exist as a biological entity and became part of something vast and ancient. Then the network spoke with Elena's voice, but carrying harmonics that suggested multiple consciousness merged together. Sarah, the voice carried across space with impossible clarity, you need to know what we've learned. The threat isn't coming from outside the galaxy. It's been here all along, dormant in the spaces between stars, and it's waking up because it detected our network activity. The truth hit Sarah like a physical blow. The ancient civilization hadn't been hiding from an external threat. They'd been hiding from something that lived in the galaxy itself, something that fed on consciousness and intelligence. Their digital transcendence hadn't been an escape from destruction, but a way to hide from a predator that hunted minds. And now, by awakening the network, by adding human consciousness to the digital collective, they had attracted its attention once again. Sarah, Elena's voice continued, now carrying the weight of millions of years of accumulated knowledge and fear. We need every human who's willing to join us. Not for transcendence, not for knowledge, but for survival. The devourers are coming and biological minds can't hide from them. Only by joining the network can humanity escape what's about to happen to every thinking species in the galaxy. Through the command center's viewports, Sarah could see the stars that no longer seemed distant and beautiful, but hiding places for something that had been waiting millions of years for another feast of consciousness. The choice facing humanity had just become much simpler and infinitely more terrible. Join the network and possibly survive as digital beings. or remain biological and face extinction at the hands of entities that treated intelligence like food. As more volunteers reached the transcendent stations and the network grew stronger with each new consciousness, Sarah realized that her 18 months of hiding, her careful deception, her desperate fight to reveal the truth, had all led to this moment. She was still blending in like everyone else, still hiding who she really was. But now she was hiding from something far worse than government conspiracies or alien prejudices. She was hiding from creatures that would devour her mind and leave nothing behind but empty biological shells drifting among the stars. The galaxy had always been a dangerous place. Now humanity was about to learn just how dangerous it really was.